Michigan at number 2, Ohio State. That is the big noon game, noon Eastern on Fox. Off the top, Geoff, do you give Michigan a chance to win this game if Blake Corum is not healthy?
Oh, that one's really tough. And look, I was actually encouraged. They showed him doing some community service, right? I think he was giving turkeys out for Thanksgiving the day after the game, or maybe it was yesterday, and he looked fine. Like he was moving fine. I mean, that's a decent sign, I guess, right? Like that, your normally injured guys don't go to those events. Like you just say, sorry, he's hurt, he can't go, right? And so for him to go to the event, I think it was his event anyways. Great job by him, obviously setting that up. But that was encouraging. So I hope he does get to play in this game. You want to see both teams as full strength as possible. I'll tell you what's important about Michigan right now into this game. Throughout last week, Ohio State didn't play terribly well against Maryland either. They're both kind of getting ready for this game. Is they believe they can win because of what happened last season. And that goes a long way, I think, of preparing to play Ohio State. Is they have the formula, right? Bludgeon them at the line of scrimmage, right? Like you're not going to match often the skill talent with your skill talent. But if you win the trenches and you dominate by ball control, hitting their quarterback, and their defense line is not as good this season, that is the path to winning this game, same as they did last year. So they believe they can do it, which is very important. Now, obviously, the question is, can they execute? Can they rush the passer, which they don't have as well a pass rush this year as last year? And then offensively, last year they were able to generate explosive plays against Ohio State. Can they do the same this season, knowing Ohio State's defense is better this year? So those are my concerns about Michigan, but I absolutely believe they can win this game. It might take a little bit more than last year's effort, because I think, again, offensively, they're just not as good offensively this year as they were last year.
I think it's a very good point you make about Michigan having in the back of their head that we out-physicaled this team last year, and we expect to do it again this year. Now, a couple of things that I think are important. One is that game was in Ann Arbor, and it was a game in which it was almost impossible to throw the football with those conditions. It was a rock flying around out there. And number two, Josh Gaddis, on his way out, I might add, said that Ohio State was a finesse team, not a tough team. And Ohio State has been holding on to that for the better part of a year after having never lost this game in the Ryan Day era and haven't lost this game since 2011. So they're going to show up absolutely going, okay, you want to try to run the football? Let's do that. And then let's see if your guy, J.J. McCarthy, can beat us over the top. And that's where I think the game is going to be won or lost, is what can J.J. McCarthy do if Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards aren't there for him? Now, on the other side of that, I also think it's a really great challenge for Jim Knowles and his defense, because they haven't been as good in pass defense as they would like to be, but they've been much more stout up front, and gives me an opportunity to just go ahead and highlight. Tommy Eichenberg has meant the world to the defensive turnaround of that Buckeye defense. He is the middle linebacker, the guy in the middle, making 105 tackles. He's got an interception, a TD, 2.5 sacks. He was snubbed from the Butkus finalist award list earlier today, but you can't overlook what he's done, what Teron Vincent has done, what Mike Hall Jr. has done, and really what that entire front has done. But I'm going to throw this back to you, talking about one of your guys, right, on the Pac-12 coast in Washington, and JT Tuimoloau. I was looking at his stats this year and doing some reading. I come to find out that he set the record this week for most helmet stickers handed out to one player, Buckeyes, when he had 16 for that game he had against Penn State. He had, my goodness, 6 tackles, 3 for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, a pass breakup, a fumble recovery, and a TD. Do you think that JT Tuimoloau and that Ohio State defense is going to absolutely load the box and try to just say, hey, look, we don't care who you are, we're going to make you throw the football?
I thought you were going to ask me if JTT should come transfer to Oregon. I thought you were going to ask me that, but I guess not.
You had your shot, buddy. You had your shot.
Hey, Washington wasn't even in the building. That's all that matters. They weren't even in the building with their own guy in their own state. So I can't even talk right now because they beat us 2 weeks ago. I think they're definitely going to, bring the pressure on Michigan, and that might be the difference in this game, right? So last year, Michigan's pass rush was the difference, right? They got home a lot. Correct. They're not as good this season on that side of the ball, and Ohio State feels like they have the advantage with their pass rush. Now, Michigan's offensive line is really good. Again, they're semifinalists for the Joe Moore Award. They're one of the 9 best units. They're good again this season. But the challenge,
real quick,
yes,
and ask you, Is this offensive line, that caliber of offensive line it was last year, RE winning the Joe Moore Award?
I think they could be a finalist. Yeah. I mean, this game will go a long way. And this thing about the award, of course, you kind of tally it all year, right? And so, and I think, at least for me, I'm not sure I think the other guys, I won't speak for them, but like I carry more weight in my evaluation when you play the better teams, right? Because I think that's very important. You a lot of times in college football, you're a good offensive line, you're playing a bad defensive line 7 out of 11 games, right? Like, so to me, if they can push around Ohio State and they can block up Ohio State, they have a possibility to win that award again. Like and of course, then they play Iowa next week, and that becomes again 2 straight weekends of top defenses. And that, that helps you win the award. So yeah, they're good, man. I'm not sure they're as good as last year, but they can put themselves in that category with a big game. And they have to stop Ohio State's pass rush. They just have to do it. They have to give time to let JJ work back there. And if they do that, then there's a possibility that they can win that award again.
It's an interesting point you raise. On the other side of the Big Ten, we have the Big Ten West has been just really all over the map. It feels like Iowa wins, they'll get in, but there's still some moving and shaking that has to be done. Nebraska's not a pushover in the way that many of us thought they might be. I expect that children of the corn style of game, that rivalry game between the 2 corn producing states, to be outstanding. One more question before we get off of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Is the Heisman Trophy winner going to come out of this game, Geoff?
No. The Heisman Trophy winner will come out of the next game we're talking about. CJ Stroud has had a season it's been a good season. I think it has not met the expectations that people thought the kind of for this season. Doesn't mean he's played bad. But I do think, look, if he plays well against Michigan and plays well against Iowa, sure, he can be into it. But the other guy in Los Angeles is a USC quarterback, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good, guys. Like, and I think with Caleb Williams, is USC for the most part this year has played those late kickoffs, Pac-12 network games. They get UCLA in primetime. They're getting Notre Dame in primetime. They're getting a Pac-12 championship game in primetime. And if they don't score 45 points, they don't win any game. So Caleb Williams has to keep scoring and scoring and scoring. And I think Caleb Williams will win this Heisman the next 2 weeks if he hasn't won it already.
Oh, man. I can't wait to see how that goes out, because I'm giving it to CJ Stroud if they absolutely go to work in this game, to the point of perhaps he hasn't met expectations. I'm going, yeah, well, 4,500 yards and close to 40 TDs. That's pretty damn good. He's at 35 and 4 right now. I think between those 2 dudes, you have 2 outstanding finalists. And I think it's going to be cool to see who does what in these last couple of weeks, because I think you're right that both of those guys are going to get invited to New York, but we'll have to see just what they do, what USC does against Notre Dame Pac-12 championship, and of course what Ohio State does against Michigan. To say nothing of if Blake Corum plays in this game and plays well, that could be the Heisman Trophy winner. Very excited about that. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.